Everybody, and welcome to Tommy Highway TV, home of the Common Sense Network. I, of course, as always, am your host, Tommy Highway. Tonight on the live stream, we're going to do something a little bit different. And the reason we're doing this, I'm actually partnering on this live stream with another YouTube channel, UFO Man. That would be Tim at UFO Man next to me there. And the reason that we're doing this is that we've been getting a great deal of feedback from our viewers, and even in some cases, some of my readers of some of my books. And they're very concerned about the coronavirus and everything that's associated with that. They're wanting our opinion on whether or not this is hype or whether or not this is something that we're not being given the full picture of at this point. So we thought we'd go ahead and do sort of a public service message on this one. We've got some information to share with you. And we're going to go ahead and start by, let's before we get into the coronavirus, we have to know a couple of things here. Let's set the Wayback Machine. Let's go all the way back to the early 2000s when the SARS virus came out of China, if you all remember that. Severe respiratory illness, killed several people. And what did the Chinese government do? They sat on their hands. They kept their mouths shut. They didn't say a thing to the world until things got out of control. It was like nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And then all of a sudden, we got an epidemic here. That's when they invited the World Health Organization in. That's when they invited our CDC people and the CDCs of other countries as well to try to contain the outbreak. Now, the difference between SARS and the coronavirus is the coronavirus seems to be a lot more communicable, I should say. In other words, it's a lot easier for people to catch, okay? It spreads a whole lot easier. So fast forward to today, to the coronavirus, and here we are with the Chinese playing exactly the same play that they played with SARS. They've kept their mouth shut about it. This has gone on for weeks and weeks and possibly longer that we know about. And now they have a major epidemic on their hands over there, and they're spreading it to the rest of the world. Another Chinese import that nobody wanted. Now, let's ask ourselves, why are these things coming from China? Why is this happening and only coming from China? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Because, see, the Chinese people are very arrogant, and they see themselves as the world intellectual leaders. Okay, they are intellectually superior to everybody else on the planet at this point. Except one thing. See, they've not learned a lesson that American children learned pretty early in the game. And that is to be very careful about what you put in your mouth, because it may kill you. Okay? Apparently, they haven't learned this lesson. So what are they doing? They're eating all kinds of exotic animals over there, things that you would never even dream or conceive of eating. Tim, would you mind throwing up that cat?
Sure. Okay, here's the cat. You just got to bring it from backstage.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Be very careful about what you put in. This is what we found.
It's a civet cat.
Yeah, the civet cat. And this is the thing that was actually traced back with SARS was actually traced back to. Now look at that animal right there. What part of that animal makes you think, yum, gee, I sure would like to eat that? I mean, give me a break. That looks like something that should be sitting on your lap purring. But they eat things like that. They don't have to, but they do. Bat soup is another one. I mean, imagine plopping down and eating a bat or anything associated with a bat. I mean, it's unbelievable. So
let me show that bat soup real quick.
Yeah, we've actually got a photo of this. Now imagine that being appealing in any way to you. Imagine that. But these people are eating stuff like this. They're eating exotic animals, and that's why we're having these diseases that are jumping from these animals over to humans and then mutating from there. Now, right now, China is claiming to have something along the lines of 4,000 cases of coronavirus. I don't believe them for a moment. I don't believe them because of their past behavior with this sort of thing. Again, we've been trying to get the WHO in there for weeks, and they have not allowed us to do anything. This is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, consider how this thing is transmitted. Well, let's just say not necessarily how it's transmitted, but the method is used to be carried, okay? These people are going to China for vacations or whatever their reasons are to go to China. They go to China, they become infected. Now, imagine probably the best way to infect a large group of people with a disease. Well, I would say if you put them all in an enclosed area for a long period of time, that would probably be one of the better ways to do it. Now, imagine a jet aircraft. Imagine that. So these passengers that have contracted this virus are jumping on an aircraft with possibly hundreds of other people from everywhere else. It's very, very difficult to contain that. I mean, at this point, the cat is out of the bag. Is it too late? Tim, would you like to go ahead and roll that vid?
Hold on a second. Okay. You mean the one on, okay, here. Here we go. Go ahead, bring it up.
Oh, sorry about that.
You might want to remove your banner.
I can't hear it. There's no audio.
Oh, okay. When you share it, when you push the share button, there's a little enable audio box in the bottom left corner. You see it?
No.
Go out of sharing your video. Pardon us. This is technical difficulties. Go back to where you're going to share your video. Okay. Push the TV screen button. Okay. Then down in the bottom left-hand corner of that, there will be a little box that says enable audio. Click it. Do you see it? Well, we seem to have lost Tommy.
Yeah, I'm
Tommy.
here. Yeah, I'm not seeing that, Tim.
Okay, when you see the screen box down below, you just click on what looks like a TV screen. Don't share the video yet.
Okay.
There will be a little box in the bottom left-hand corner that you have to check mark. It says enable audio.
The only thing I have is an add to stream, and I don't have any little boxes around it anywhere.
Okay, you're pulling it from backstage, correct? Don't do it that way. Okay. Here, I'll just do it this way.
Yeah, just play it on your end if you don't mind.
I don't know if I can. I don't have a way to enable audio. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop. I'm going to pull this off like that. Okay, so now it's off.
Yep.
What you need to do, I have it on my screen. So what you need to do is share the screen. Okay. When you push share screen.
Okay, I got it.
It says share audio in the bottom left corner.
Yep, there we go. Okay, go ahead and run it.
Okay. Share. Bring it from backstage, Tommy.
There's still no audio.
There's no audio?
No. Go ahead and take that off of there, please.
There should be audio.
Okay, put it back up, please.
I can't put it back up until you share it.
Okay, here we go.
I'll enable audio. Share. Oops, now it's got me. Okay.
I got it.
To mainland China will be cut before the end of the week. Ramy Inocencio is interesting. Ramy, we understand that the U.S. has a flight evacuating Americans now from Wuhan, which is basically the epicenter of this virus.
Yes, that's right. That plane is scheduled to take off in roughly 12 hours time. That is Wednesday morning here in China. But not every American living in Wuhan will be on that plane for the simple reason is that there aren't enough seats. Now, we did speak to one American citizen, a man in Wisconsin. His wife and his child are stuck in Wuhan, and he's hoping that they can get on that plane.
Yeah, you excited to see me, Adeline? Yeah, I miss you too.
Sam Roth is doing everything he can to help his family get out of Wuhan. His wife Daisy and his 2 children, Adeline and Abigail, flew to China to see Daisy's family just last week for the big Lunar New Year holiday. Sam stayed in Wisconsin.
From the moment they stepped foot on Wuhan, they were told, stay inside, don't get in big gatherings, and then the city went on lockdown.
And they're just 3 of the roughly 1,000 Americans unable to leave. They hope to be chosen to fly on the State Department's chartered flight Wednesday. The government says priority will be for those at greater risk.
We've got a 10-month-old, we've got a 5-year-old. They're susceptible and they should be prioritized.
U.S. health officials do say the virus is not spreading widely in the country and public danger is low. Still, 5 cases have been confirmed, while more than 100 suspected cases are being tested across 26 states.
The American public should not be fearful about this, but you really need to take it very seriously, because as things evolve, our recommendations and our policy will change to be in accordance with what the evidence is.
Back in Wuhan, the city is racing to finish 2 hospitals in the next few weeks to treat thousands of people. Wuhan's mayor on national television has offered to resign for what he called an unsatisfactory response, saying about 5 million people left his city before it went on lockdown.
So, Ramy, the U.S. is not the only country preparing to fly citizens out of mainland China. What do we know about how all of those evacuations are going?
Sure. Well, aside from the United States, Anne-Marie, Japan was the most recent country just today to announce that it is also organizing a flight to get its citizens out of the country. In addition, there's a long list of several other countries. Earlier this week, France also said that it was trying to do so. The interesting thing here, though, is that the foreign ministry met with many ambassadors here in Beijing earlier this week, and they basically said that there is no need to try to evacuate anyone out of Wuhan. In addition, the World Health Organization head is here, and he also said that that's not necessary. But you can see by the rising concern, some could say panic, that people are not listening to those officials and they're getting their people out.
You mentioned that the mayor of Wuhan offered to resign over the way the government has handled this. We know that overnight, the confirmed cases of coronavirus in China doubled. What has the government response been like? We did a lot of stories on how, some of these cities were being sort of locked down, but what else is going on?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing was the government trotting out the mayor of Wuhan on national television, no less. And he said that he accepted responsibility for what he called basically his government's slow response to this crisis. He also admitted, he claimed that 5 million people in his city left before the lockdown. Now, through the context of how the government works here, this is often the case where they send out some kind of person, some would say a sacrificial lamb, to take the fall so that other people higher up can continue to work. We also saw on the flip side of this, China's premier come out to go visit the site of 2 hospitals that are also being built. So there's this juxtaposition of someone taking the blame and someone taking the praise here. Looking ahead, there is definitely damage control coming out of Beijing, but they're trying to put a brave face forward. But this coronavirus epidemic, according to China's health minister, is only going to get worse. Infections are only going to rise before it gets better.
Wow. Okay, Ramy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's unbelievable. It's the Chinese playing the Chinese game again. They didn't get burned badly enough on the whole SARS thing and got lucky on it. They didn't learn a thing from that. I mean, not only did they not learn to stop eating weird things, but how to handle a situation like this, an outbreak, and they chose not to do it again. Okay, now we're flying people out of there. In fact, what is it? Eastern Airlines, or one of the big airlines today, one of the major airlines today, is canceling flights to China, and that you're going to see that more and more. But is the damage already done? I mean, they're tracking, 26 states? What's it going to be tomorrow? How many? All those people were on that little tin can together for how many hours to get from China to here?
Not just 26 states, but about 30 other countries.
Right.
So it's amazing how fast it's spread. It's gone from a super spreader event to a pandemic, and from a pandemic to an epidemic now. It's been reclassified as an epidemic.
Well,
which
yeah,
that's very, very, very dangerous.
right. It is. And the fact that they're scrambling to create these field hospitals as fast as they can go, that tells you what you need to know right there, because they weren't really doing that. They weren't this freaked out and panicked during the SARS thing. And again, as bad as it was, it all comes down to China and how they handle things. They don't want to play like the rest of the world does. They just don't feel like they feel like they're above that, or they're too paranoid, or whatever the case may be. And now here we are again, only this time it's much worse.
Right. I'm going to read something real quick. The CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, is working closely with the state of Washington and local partners. A CDC team has been deployed within the U.S. to support the ongoing investigation in the state of Washington and other states to trace close contacts to determine if anyone else has become ill. Also, coronaviruses are part of a large family of viruses, some causing respiratory illness in people and others circulating among animals, including camels, cats, and bats. Also turkeys, horses, pigs, and cattle. Rarely, animal coronaviruses can evolve and infect people and then spread between people, such as been seen with severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, or MERS. MERS came out a few years ago, around 2000, I think it was 2012, and it jumped from camels to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that spread. When person-to-person spread has occurred with SARS and MERS, it is thought to happen via respiratory droplets in close contact, or if you were to touch something that someone else had left DNA material on, like if you touched a railing and somebody that was infected had touched that same spot. While severe illnesses, including illness resulting in several deaths, has been reported with the coronavirus, other patients have had milder illnesses and been discharged. Their immune systems have kicked in and fought it. But according to information that I've seen and that Tommy's seen, people over 65 are at risk because their immune system is hindered by their age. And people that have a weakened immune system, like say diabetics, or people that are on medications that inhibit their immune system.
Organ transplant people.
A whole bunch of people could be very much in the line of danger at this point. And there is no way of knowing for up to 12 weeks after someone's been infected because of the incubation period. You could be walking around acting like, oh, no, not me. It would never happen to me. And you may have already been infected.
Right.
So the best thing to do is take all precautions necessary, follow what your local government is telling you in regards to staying safe, protecting your family, protecting everyone around you, including yourself. Mm-hmm. This is not a hoax. This is real. It is really happening. And we do not, the Tommy Highway TV channel and the UFO Man channel are making an effort this evening to get this information out, because we do not want to lose any more people, any more citizens. Right. We want people to remain safe.
Awareness is key at this point.
Yes. So it says here, the confirmation that some limited person-to-person spread with this virus is occurring in Asia raises the level of concern about this virus, because it has exploded in the number of people overnight. Even they're saying upwards of 100,000 people now have been infected.
Right.
And that's in Asia. So if you consider outside of Asia, all those other countries we were mentioning earlier, there's got to be more than that. Sure. And they're just not giving you the true numbers, because if they would, it may cause chaos and panic.
a panic in the global markets. I mean, there's all kinds of, this is nothing but bad, any way you look at it. I mean, it's bad, bad, bad. There's no upside here.
Right. It's already affecting the markets. There was a market dive this morning.
Yep. And that's in this country.
In
you know,
this
so
country, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that it's the kind of thing, the way that this thing is spreading, it could really get out of control. In fact, it probably already is. Now, like Tim was saying, it's right now, it's really the most dangerous for the very young or the very old. But who's to say it's not going to, morph into something else? Who's to say it's not going to, the virus won't change again? And then it could even become worse. I mean, again, it all stems, and I hate to keep going back to this, but it all stems from China and their behavior in this and how they handle, a world threat like this. And, I tell you, if next time you think about going to China for, give them some money for, for tourism or whatever, why don't you think about this? I mean, these people need to get it together. Stop eating everything that crawls or flies. I mean, as humans, we've been on this planet long enough now that we know what's safe to eat and what's not safe to eat. And if you're not sure, don't eat it.
Right. Don't put it in your mouth.
Don't put it in your mouth.
If you don't know what it is, don't eat it. And even though I have to say this, a gentleman I was talking to in another live stream, I think it was yesterday, stated to me, Tim, there are a lot of outdoor meat markets across the world, and they haven't had outbreaks of the coronavirus. I think they're just ticking time bombs, and that you never know where this is going to happen. Why take the risk? So yes, there may be open meat markets across the world, like the one in Wuhan, that are still doing business the same old way. But eventually, some type of disease or virus could come from there as well. So all I'm going to say to you is, why take that risk? I mean, look, it's already jeopardizing the economies and the health of major countries across the world, mainly health. We're going to lose family. We're going to lose people we know to something that we can't control. And right at this moment, the coronavirus, being that it's a virus, is not responsive to any type of treatment, especially antibiotics. So when you go to the doctor, if you're diagnosed with coronavirus, they can't do much for you other than make you comfortable and wait it out.
Keep you hydrated.
See if you survive the virus. Yes, jacks, monkey brains, you don't want to eat them either. But in regards to any type of strange meat that is not prepared in a safe manner could actually harm you. In fact, they're even warning against contact with dogs, cats, any type of living animal in the United States, that you should wash your hands thoroughly, make sure you wash all surfaces that you touch, and maintain a sanitized environment for the time being so that you can protect yourself.
Right.
Tommy?
Well, that's a great point. At this point, prevention it's one of those things where, an ounce of prevention is worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that's where we're at here. You have to be very mindful of touching a doorknob. You touch a doorknob, wash your hands. You go to a supermarket, they've got those, those wipes, use those. Absolutely. Everything that you touch, wipe it down with something at this point. And that's it's a good idea to do that all the time anyway. But especially when we have something, we're literally delving into the unknown here, folks. I mean, this is something that the way this thing is spreading, it's just amazing how fast that's happening. Okay.
When you go to the clinic, if you have little children, when you walk in the door, usually they have one of those little stands that'll have masks available. The recommendation is that children should be wearing a mask during this crisis, whether there is a known case in your area or not. Don't take the chance. children and people over 65 are the top two high risk groups.
Yeah.
So it would be better if the children wore masks. In fact, the last time I went to the clinic, I saw little kids being shown how to wear the masks by nurses. They were implementing that guideline within the clinic. Very good idea. And so if you take your kids, take the little extra time to give them a mask and protect them from whatever is floating around in the clinic. You never know what you may pick up.
Well, that's where sick people always go. So you're right in there. You're right inside of a petri dish when you walk into a doctor's office. I mean, that's,
Exactly.
I've walked into the doctor's office with a hurt ankle before, and 3 days later I had the flu. Well, guess where I probably got it from? The
Right.
doctor's office, because there was someone there that had it. But this thing this one is scary. And again, at this point, we need to really take a look at how we as a country and we as a people deal with countries that have these kinds of issues and keep their mouths shut about it. And that's exactly what the Chinese have done here. This has gone on for God knows how long. And again, they didn't say anything until they couldn't keep it a secret any longer. Exactly like they did with SARS. At this point, think about that before you buy your next Chinese product. Our American companies need to think about that when they're doing business with the Chinese. These people need to get it together in more ways than one, and not just their dietary intake, which they really need to get that locked down, but how they respond to an incident. And this is, just like SARS, this thing is a lot worse than it had to be because of the behavior and the methods of the Chinese government. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Right. I wanted to note that the symptoms that people need to look for are headache, runny nose, a cough. Now the cough could be a slight cough or a deep cough. Trouble breathing. Those are the main ones. You could also experience diarrhea and kidney pain, because eventually, if you do connect with the coronavirus and you are infected and you have all those symptoms, including the kidney pain, that kidney pain could result in kidney failure. That's what makes it fatal. So the best thing to do is just follow simple sanitizing techniques. Wash your hands frequently. Wash the surfaces that you prepare food on. Wash the surfaces in your bathroom. Make sure that everything is clean.
And if you've never heard of it, don't eat it.
Right.
There's a big one. There's a big one.
But then, I do know for a fact that we have some ethnic groups in the United States that do eat different types of foods. Just if you're going to eat that type of food, make sure you prepare it in a sanitary method. Because if you do not, you may be propagating the coronavirus itself.
Right. You could be typhoid Mary on this thing. I mean,
Right.
It had to start somewhere,
Right.
It's one of those things. Now that the cat's out of the bag, who knows how bad it's going to get. Now, I did read there's a company in the United States that's supposedly coming up with some kind of a treatment, and they say that they'll have a test candidate in 5 or 6 weeks. But that's all well and fine, but a test candidate that's not like a proven method. So that's a crapshoot. Again, like Tim was saying, that the best thing to do here is prevent yourself from being infected in the first place. Because once you got it, you got it. And there's really no way of getting rid of it. If your body can't get rid of it, it's going to kill you. That's the bottom line, because there is no treatment at this point.
Right. The last time that they had the coronavirus outbreak, which was SARS, they didn't have a cure for it. They didn't even have a vaccine. The way they prevented it was to prevent it from happening.
And they got lucky.
They knew the symptoms and they got lucky and they waited it out.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's why 858 people were killed from the SARS virus.
Right.
Hopefully that won't happen this time. I hear now there's over 100 people that have already died from this.
And there could be many more for all we know. Again, when we're expecting a country like China to level with us about the numbers, that's just a fool's errand. They're not going to do that. And I don't know if it's a matter of national pride or paranoia or what exactly their problem is. But at the end of the day, it's the Chinese, and they're just going to do it the Chinese way. So we'll never know the exact numbers. We probably don't know the numbers of SARS patients for that matter. Who knows what's going to happen here?
Hey, Tommy, can you pull up this video?
Sure.
Now remember to check the share audio button. You just have to bring it from back
Yep.
tape.
Here we go.
This is a coronavirus. There are, in fact, many different types. Some are mild, causing the common cold. Others are deadly. Now there's a new strain. It's one that we've never encountered before and one that can kill. So little is known about this new virus. Scientists fear the number of deaths it causes could rise dramatically in the next few weeks.
I do think we should be concerned. This is a virus that we know nothing really about. And until we have that information and information around how is it transmitting to people, what is the severity range of the disease, it's going to remain concerning.
Officially called 2019 nCoV, it's not easy to detect, much like a cold or the flu. It's spread the same way, through coughing, sneezing, or contact with an infected surface. Initial symptoms can be simply a headache, fever, and a cough. It can progress to pneumonia, though, causing breathing problems and kidney failure. For people with weakened immune systems, it can be fatal. In 2002, a global health emergency was declared when the SARS virus spread rapidly across the world. It too originated in China and killed nearly 800 people. That pandemic led to changes which could help reduce the spread of this virus today.
China is now much better equipped to respond to this sort of threat than it was 20 years ago, but also movement, travel within China is much more than it was 20 years ago, and many more Chinese people travel overseas than did 20 years ago. So there are pluses and minuses in terms of the challenges of responding to a new epidemic.
Here, passengers arriving from Wuhan were not being screened, but told to seek urgent medical advice if they start to feel ill. With an incubation period of 5 days, Public Health England insists thermal imaging won't detect every case of the virus.
From a public health point of view, early detection, isolation, so that you prevent transmission is always the key. That's how SARS was controlled back in 2003. There was no treatment, there was no vaccine. It was a straightforward public health measure, early detection, isolation, so that you prevent transmission and therefore you prevent spread.
Whether this becomes an international emergency will be determined by the World Health Organization, but with numbers of infection growing, it is perhaps inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure it will be. In fact, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we woke up tomorrow morning to find out that they have declared a world emergency on this. Again, when the air carriers from the United States, when they start restricting flights or canceling flights to China, that's big stuff. That's big. I don't remember that happening during the SARS thing. It may have, but I don't recall that. That means that we've got a problem here. And to be honest with you, I haven't been super impressed with our government's response on this thing, as far as, talking to the people, assuring the people that everything's going to be okay or whatever. Tell us something, but they're not even doing that, which is also troubling in my opinion.
Right. China, though, is kind of restricting what they're saying to the U.S. anyways because of our relations with them. I kind of think that's part of it.
It's the SARS thing all over again. And they thought that they could probably handle it. They thought, okay, well, we know we got some people getting sick, and I'm sure that they probably identified the virus fairly quickly. I mean, they do have, modern medical equipment, but it's just, again, they just kept their mouth shut, nothing to say here, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And then, now we need help. And that's where China's at right now. And it's hard to say where it could strike next. I mean, who's to say? Again, when you're locked up in an aircraft with a sick person, you're probably going to get sick. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're sharing the same air with these people, and there's not a lot of it.
Right. Being that relations with China are really poor, I kind of think that some people are thinking, in fact, I've actually heard the theory that some people are thinking that this might be a false flag situation. But in this case, it is not.
No,
this
is reality.
This is definitely occurring. And the fact that it actually seemed to explode overnight on the same day that, believe it or not, the impeachment trial with Trump was taking a turn with the Republican testimony. That was just a coincidence. That has no bearing on this subject whatsoever. That's what
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, this is really happening. This is not. This isn't BS. This is for real. And again, in my opinion, our government is and has been way too quiet about this, and it's just unlike them to do that. I mean, they were making a bigger deal about SARS, and there were, in my opinion, on the news and stuff, and there were way less cases than there are of the coronavirus. So it's hard to say what's going to happen. Tim, do we have any more video?
I have the last video.
Okay, let's go ahead and roll that.
Okay. All right. This last video will let people know what you need to do to prevent the virus. Just hold on a second. It takes a little bit to get the sound there. We got some fancy graphics. Here it goes.
Most coronaviruses infect animals, not people. Over the last 70 years, scientists have discovered coronaviruses in mice, rats, dogs, cats, bats, turkeys, horses, pigs, and cattle. In rare cases like this one, it can make the leap from animal to human and then human to human. And it's in this market that authorities believe a deadly new strain of coronavirus emerged. It's now been shuttered and authorities say disinfected.
Scientists don't yet understand why only certain coronaviruses are able to infect people. What they do know is that the virus can make people sick, with symptoms like a runny nose, sore throat, headache, and fever. For those with a weakened immune system, it can cause bronchitis or pneumonia and doesn't respond to antibiotic treatment.
We heard about super spreaders during the SARS epidemic. Those were people who, for whatever reason, ended up spreading the disease to a lot of people. Well, this isn't a super spreader person. This is a super spreader event, and that brings a lot of risk.
It is absolutely critical that public health authorities recognize a super spreading event in the very earliest stages.
Most human coronaviruses cause only mild to moderate illness, but a handful are known to be deadly. SARS also started here in China before spreading quickly to other East Asian countries, killing about 1 in 10 people infected. Those over 65 were particularly vulnerable. SARS's full name is severe acute respiratory syndrome, and other than death, it also causes fatigue, diarrhea, shortness of breath, and kidney failure. Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, MERS, appeared in 2012 when it made the leap from camels to humans, killing 858 people. Like the common cold, there's no cure for human coronavirus. So if you feel sick, stay at home and avoid contact with others. Live animals are especially dangerous in this case. So if you do come into contact with live animals, wash your hands straight afterwards. In terms of human to human spread, well, it can be spread by coughing, by sneezing, even by a handshake, or by touching something that someone with coronavirus has touched. So stay away from people who are sick and disinfect any surfaces you think might be at risk. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze and wash your hands often. Most humans will recover from coronavirus by themselves.
Thanks, Tim. Like the man said, at this point, it's prevention, prevention, prevention. Wash your hands, wash surfaces. keep go out to Walgreens or someplace and buy a 2-pack of those, that Purell stuff. Keep one in the car every time you get in the car. Do your hands up. I mean, think about it. If you jump in the car, first thing you do is you touch your keys, you touch the steering wheel. These are common items in your life, right? And those are the things that you've just, blindly taken for granted because, they're usually not a problem. In this case, they might be a problem. So you have to take that extra special care to be able to disinfect that stuff every time you touch it, at least for a while. And hopefully this thing will blow over like, SARS did, but I don't know.
I would say that it is unknown at this time. It's very inconclusive because they don't really, they have assumed that the epicenter or the ground zero was the Wuhan meat market, but it may have come from several different ground zeros within.
It's a guess.
It's a guess, right?
Yeah.
They don't know for sure. So if they don't know for sure where it came from, and they don't know for sure its action, and they're assuming based on available knowledge, based on the SARS virus, and based on how MERS reacted, at least they have some grasp of what's going on, but they don't have the answers. But what we have provided tonight in our little video presentation should be enough to calm your mind a little bit, because authorities and medical people are on it. They are working to prevent more cases. They are working to protect the American public and other countries from more infections. So keep checking back to our channel for more information. Otherwise, just go on YouTube and you will find a whole bunch of information on the coronavirus. Keep up to date. Know what's going on. Be informed. Those are the best things that I can say.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, at the end of the day, skip the bat soup. Just skip the bat soup. How about that?
Right.
This is a problem. This is a problem that we as a planet, that we as a species do not need to be having, because we know better than to eat things that we're not supposed to eat. Yet again, the Chinese people, for whatever reason, have this taste for exotic meat. I can't even imagine any of that stuff tasting good, but they're causing this problem. And, again, when you've got people that refuse to be reasonable in their dietary intake, and you've got a government that refuses to be honest with the rest of the world, that's a recipe for disaster any way you look at it. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap for now. Tim, you have anything else? Last words?
I just have one response to Paranormal Underworld in the chat.
Hey, Jax.
He says, hopefully it won't develop into a worldwide epidemic. Well, right now it's already spread to over 26 countries. So it's well on its way to becoming a worldwide epidemic. And they have reclassified it from a pandemic to an epidemic. So yes, it's very, very, it's a very cautious and dangerous situation at the moment. But like I said, people are working on it. There are trained people from like the CDC and the World Health Organization that are out there in the field with doctors working on trying to stem any more infections in the world. So all we can do is send our prayers out to them if you're Christian, or send out good vibes to them if you're not. And keep your fingers crossed. We're going to survive this.
If we get anything new, folks, we will definitely let all of our viewers know, okay? And want to thank everybody for coming by. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Both of our channels, those subscribe buttons, those subs hits right there, those are very important to our effort. We really appreciate that. So thank you very much, and good luck, everybody. Try to stay safe.
Yeah.